On land, a worm spends its days recycling dead leaves, harmless and almost invisible. But in the ocean, a worm can grow longer than a blue whale, strike fast enough to slice a fish in half, or fill your skin with burning venom. What makes aquatic worms so much more terrifying than their land cousins? The answer lies in a brutal underwater arms race you were never meant to survive. It all begins where softness meets the reef. Earthworms have one job: eat dead stuff. Every handful of healthy soil is packed with them, sometimes hundreds in a single cubic meter, quietly chewing through fallen leaves, grass clippings, and anything else that rots. Their bodies are soft, segmented, and built for burrowing. No jaws, no venom, no armor. Just a mouth at one end and a tail at the other, moving through dirt that is rich with organic leftovers. For an earthworm, food is everywhere. Temperate forests and grasslands drop thousands of kilograms of leaf litter and other detritus per hectare every year. The top layer of soil alone can hold up to 10% organic matter by weight. That means earthworms never have to hunt, chase, or fight for their next meal. They simply tunnel forward, swallowing soil and digesting the nutrients as they go. This abundance shapes everything about them. Earthworms do not need speed, strength, or weapons. Instead, they rely on numbers. In a single square meter of good soil, there might be 200 to 600 worms. In the best spots, more than 1,000. If a bird or mole snatches one, it barely makes a dent. There are always more worms in the ground, ready to take over the job of recycling and aerating the earth. Predators exist, but they are not specialized. Robins, hedgehogs, and beetles will eat a worm if they find one, but there is no evolutionary arms race. The soil protects earthworms from most dangers. Their biggest threat is drying out in the sun, not being hunted by something with fangs or claws. Life underground is stable, predictable, and safe if you are small, soft, and good at hiding. The result is a creature perfectly adapted to a world of plenty. No need for jaws that snap, bristles that sting, or bodies that stretch for meters. Just a quiet, harmless recycler, thriving in the shadows beneath our feet. Coral reefs are the world's most crowded neighborhoods. Every square meter is packed with life, sponges, crabs, anemones, fish, and a shifting army of invertebrates, all competing for the same scraps. Food does not fall from above in endless supply. Instead, detritus is rare and quickly stripped away by a swarm of mouths, leaving the sand almost barren. In a typical patch of reef, organic matter in the sediment is less than 0.5% by weight. Compare that to rich, temperate soils, where earthworms feast on a buffet of decaying leaves and roots. On the reef, detritus is so scarce that a worm could search all day and find almost nothing worth eating. But there is something else here, something worth fighting for. Fish. A single reef fish, even a small one, is an energy windfall. The calories packed into a parrotfish or damselfish dwarf the entire year's worth of detritus in the surrounding sand. For a predator, catching one fish can mean the difference between thriving and starving. That is why the reef is a battlefield, not a compost heap. Every creature here is armed. Crabs wield claws sharp enough to split shells. Moray eels patrol crevices with jaws designed for ambush. Even the smallest shrimp sport pincers, stingers, or chemical sprays. Armor is everywhere: scales, shells, spines, and toxic bristles. Softness is a liability. Anything exposed, slow, or unprotected is quickly eaten or pushed aside. There is no mercy for the weak. In this environment, being a passive, soft-bodied scavenger is a death sentence. The competition is relentless, the predators unforgiving. To survive, worms cannot just hide, they must adapt or become prey themselves. The reef does not reward numbers, it rewards weapons, speed, and cunning. Here, every meal is a contest, and every inch of ground is earned. That pressure is what drives worms to become hunters, defenders, and sometimes monsters. Gravity is the invisible wall that keeps land worms small. On dry ground, every extra inch of body adds weight that muscles and skin must support. Stretch an earthworm to 10 feet and its own mass would flatten it against the soil. The hydrostatic skeleton, the pressurized water inside its body, works fine for tunneling, but buckles under real weight. That is why the world's longest earthworms, like Australia's Megascolides australis, rarely reach more than 3 meters, and even then their bodies are thin, slow, and fragile. Drop that same worm in seawater, and everything changes. Water lifts nearly all of its weight. A 3-meter marine worm feels almost weightless, able to grow thicker, heavier, and stronger without collapsing. The numbers are stark. In air, a worm supports 100% of its weight. In seawater, as little as 2%. That is how a bobbit worm can anchor jaws strong enough to slice through fish, or how a ribbon worm can stretch for tens of meters without snapping under its own mass. Fossil records back this up. Ancient unicid worms from the Carboniferous seas, like Websteroprion, reached lengths and jaw sizes that would be impossible on land. Even today, the ocean is home to worms longer than most whales, all thanks to buoyancy. Water erases the penalty for being big and soft. It turns the physics of limitation into the physics of possibility. Without that support, none of the ocean's monstrous worms could exist. Gravity sets the rules on land, but in the sea, buoyancy writes its own. The ocean is not just a habitat, it is a global conveyor belt for new life. Most marine worms, from tiny predators to the longest ribbon worms, begin as microscopic larvae drifting in the water column. Carried by currents that circle entire oceans, these planktonic travelers can cover hundreds, sometimes thousands of kilometers before ever touching the seafloor. That is how a single worm can end up colonizing a coral reef in the Pacific, a volcanic vent in the Atlantic, or a whale fall miles from shore, all in a single generation. This larval stage is more than just a journey, it is a lottery ticket. Only a small fraction of larvae ever survive the ride. Most are eaten by fish, swept into barren open water, or settle where nothing can grow. But those that land in the right spot, on a living reef, a fresh whale skeleton, or a newly formed hydrothermal vent, get a chance to start a new population from scratch. Oceanographers tracking polychaete larvae have found them drifting over 500 kilometers from their birthplace, with settlement success rates often below 1%. Yet over evolutionary time, even these slim odds are enough to connect distant habitats and spark bursts of adaptation. Currents do not just spread worms far and wide, they turn the ocean into a patchwork of experiments, each reef, vent, or sunken carcass a test site for new traits. Chemical defenses, venomous bristles, and even symbiotic partnerships with bacteria can all evolve in isolation, then spread when the next wave of larvae rides the currents to a new frontier. A single brush against a bearded fireworm can ruin a diver's week. Hermodis carunculata, common across the Caribbean and Mediterranean, looks almost ornamental, with bands of red, green, and white bristles waving gently from its sides. But every one of those white bristles is a hollow needle loaded with a cocktail of toxins. The moment skin makes contact, the chaeta snap off and embed themselves deep, delivering neurotoxic compounds that trigger burning pain, swelling, and sometimes nausea or dizziness. The agony can last for days, long after the bristles are gone. Divers who ignore the warning colors learn quickly. In Bonaire, a diver once reached out to steady himself on a rock and brushed a fireworm. The pain was immediate, like grabbing a handful of nettles, but sharper and deeper. Hot water, vinegar, antihistamines. None of it brought instant relief. 3 days later, his arm was still red and tender, every movement a reminder to look before touching. Fireworms rely on this chemical armor for survival. Unlike ambush predators, they do not hide, they advertise. Their bright, unmistakable colors shout a warning to fish and humans alike. Eat me and you will regret it. Predators learn fast. One bite means days of inflammation, a lesson not easily forgotten. This is epissemitism in action, nature's version of a hazard sign, backed by real consequences. First aid is simple. Remove visible bristles with tweezers or tape, soak the area in hot water to denature the toxins, and treat the swelling. But the best protection is caution. In the crowded, violent world of the reef, even the slowest worm can survive if it is armed with pain. A worm that can stretch longer than a blue whale sounds like a myth, but it is real, and it does not need fangs or armor to terrify. This is the ribbon worm, a creature that rewrites what it means to be big. In 1864, a single bootlace worm washed ashore in Scotland. Local newspapers measured it at 55 meters, snaking across the sand in tangled loops. Even today, scientists debate the exact length. Some say post-mortem stretching exaggerates the record, but even the most cautious estimates put live specimens at over 100 feet. No other animal, not even the blue whale, comes close in sheer length. The secret is not muscle or bulk, it is geometry. Ribbon worms are impossibly thin, sometimes less than 1 centimeter wide, yet they can uncoil for half a football field. This extreme shape is not just for show. Every inch of their skin is packed with blood vessels, turning their entire body into a gigantic lung. Oxygen diffuses straight through, supporting a body plan that would suffocate any land animal. In the water, length is cheap, mass is expensive. The ocean's support lets these worms invest in surface area, not bulk, and that is what lets them reach such astonishing sizes. When it is time to hunt, the ribbon worm does not lunge or bite. Instead, it relies on a weapon just as strange as its body, the proboscis. Hidden inside, the sticky muscular tube can shoot out up to 1.5 times the worm's own length. The proboscis everts, turns inside out, snaring prey in a web coated with mucus and sometimes acidic secretions. Small crustaceans and fish get tangled, immobilized, and then slowly reeled in. It is a strategy built on patience and reach, not brute force. No jaws, no venom, no armor, just endless ribbon, powered by the physics of water, breathing through every millimeter of skin, and armed with a projectile tongue that can reach farther than most predators can swim. In the ocean, size is not a burden, it is a tool. At the bottom of the Pacific, where sunlight never reaches and the pressure could crush a submarine, something impossible grows. Giant tube worms, Riftia pachyptila, cluster in dense thickets around hydrothermal vents, their white plumes waving in clouds of scalding, toxic water. These worms can reach nearly 8 feet long, but they have no mouth, no stomach, and no eyes. For years, biologists thought nothing could survive here. Then, in 1977, a team aboard the Alvin submersible came face to face with towering red-plumed worms flourishing in the darkness. Expedition logs from that dive still capture the shock. We expected nothing. These giant worms changed everything about deep-sea ecology. The secret is buried inside their bodies. Instead of eating, tube worms host a dense organ called a trophosome, packed with billions of bacteria. The vents spew hydrogen sulfide, lethal to most animals, directly into the water. The worms absorb these chemicals through their plumes and deliver them to their internal partners. The bacteria use chemosynthesis to convert hydrogen sulfide into sugars, feeding both themselves and the worm. The waste from one becomes food for the other. In this closed loop, the worm is alive, but its real job is to house and protect its microbial tenants. This partnership is so efficient that tube worms grow at a rate unmatched by any other marine invertebrate. Some colonies can shoot up nearly 3 feet in a single year. They form living pillars around vents, creating oases of life where nothing else should survive. In the words of one vent biologist, it is like finding a forest at the bottom of the ocean, with no sunlight, no plants, just animals feeding on poison. No jaws, no venom, no need to hunt. Yet there is something unsettling about a creature that grows this fast, this large, without ever eating. It is a reminder that terror in the deep does not always come with teeth. Sometimes it comes quietly, built on a partnership with invisible life. A whale dies and sinks, vanishing into the darkness thousands of meters below. Within days, its bones become a banquet for one of the strangest worms on Earth, Osedax, the so-called zombie worm. Unlike scavengers that gnaw flesh, Osedax targets what is left behind, the skeleton itself. Its body is little more than a pinkish tube topped with feathery plumes, but the real work happens out of sight. Instead of jaws or teeth, Osedax grows root-like extensions that bore directly into the bone. These roots secrete acid, dissolving the mineral matrix and opening tunnels deep inside. Once inside, the roots are not there to feed on bone directly. Instead, they house colonies of symbiotic bacteria. The worm delivers bone-derived fats and proteins to its microbial tenants. In return, the bacteria break down these nutrients, releasing simple molecules the worm can absorb. It is a partnership built to mine the last reserves of energy from a whale fall, long after flesh and cartilage are gone. The reproductive strategy is just as bizarre. Most Osedax worms you see on a bone are female, anchored in place by their roots. Hidden within each female's body are dozens of tiny males, permanent juveniles, never growing larger than a grain of rice. They live entirely inside the female, their only function to fertilize her eggs as she releases them into the water. This arrangement means a single whalebone can host a harem of Osedax, each female a living nursery, each bone a city of mouths and roots. By dissolving bone and extracting lipids, Osedax opens a niche that would otherwise be locked away. On land, no worm has ever evolved to eat skeletons from the inside out. But in the deep sea, where energy is rare and nothing goes to waste, even death itself is just another opportunity for life to adapt. Right now, scientists discover new marine worm species almost every year, each stranger than the last. As we push deeper into the oceans, these shape-shifting survivors remind us, evolution favors extremes where limits disappear. The monsters aren't shrinking, they're multiplying, unseen, just beyond the light. In the world's largest habitat, the true boundaries of nature are still being written. What else waits, hidden in the dark? Drop your thoughts below.